Hello, welcome to the campaign diary for session 31 of the Abomination Vaults Campaign Diaries. We have finished Fall of Plaguestone, so if you haven't watched that series, it's completed now. There's 9 episodes. You can go and watch that entire thing, start to finish, and that one's all wrapped up. Go enjoy it. Last time we played, we learned that the Gauntlet will kill its target when it fires, which means the next time it fires, it'll kill Lily. Lily is an NPC from Rock's backstory and has taken the place of Lazda Venkavale in our story. While Rock unfortunately stepped away from the campaign, his NPCs are still in play and the other players know about it, so the thought of Lily dying didn't sit too well with them. As such, there's been a sudden rush to get down to the next floor and keep pushing in order to save Lily. So, as our heroes gathered up, they descended, at long last, to the 4th floor, Belcora's retreat. Heading down the staircase took them to the dining hall. A pair of brightly glowing chandeliers illuminate a long banquet table surrounded by luxurious high-backed chairs. The table is still set as if for a grand meal, but some of the place settings are scattered and toppled, as are a few of the chairs. 4 skeletons in tattered finery are scattered around the room, some of them clutching their own necks. In the room there were 4 corpse lights, and as our heroes entered, they attacked on sight, standing up in the skeletal bodies of some previous assassins and attacking our party. This is not the first time they've fought corpse lights, and they actually sent our heroes running the first time they fought them. Compared to that, this was a pretty easy battle. It was actually a lot of fun having multiple bodies they could jump into though, so as they killed the skeletons, the corpse lights emerged, and then they would dash through the doors into the various bodies around this area. Even though it's not a default ability of the corpse lights to be able to phase through doors, I just had them do it because it felt natural. They're supposed to be ghostly, wispy creatures. And then it was really fun to have the skeletons open the doors from the other side and march into the room. Gorgon began using his shield to smash down the skeletons because they have weakness to bludgeoning, and it was really cool to see that the characters are developing ways of dealing different damage types depending on the situation. May's flurry of blows was very good at dealing with the corpse lights because the first attack could destroy the skeleton and then the second attack could kill the wisp since they only have 1 hit point. Levels really do make a huge difference in Pathfinder. Compared to the first time they fought these corpse lights, they were doing very little to stand up to our heroes this time. This was especially true of the death light action, because last time they were blasting a large group of our heroes and taking out most of their hit points. But now it was very easy for our heroes to save against these attacks, and they were barely doing any damage when they did hit. It was also a much less reliable source of healing to the corpse lights because they need someone to fail the save in order to get that healing, and our heroes were just not failing. I did use this battle as a chance to introduce Lazda's death. They know who Lazda is. He's still in our story despite his role being replaced by Lily. So I used this as an opportunity to show that he was dead and the implications of that. As one of the corpse lights dashed through a door into another room, it was Lazda's corpse that opened the door. A method I often use to incorporate player backstories into pre-written modules is to take their NPCs and swap out some less important NPCs in the story. It's a very effective way of making our players feel involved without having to change the plot too much or add too much additional content, although I do add a lot of additional content as well. I have made a lazy guide about it, which you can go and check out if you want to learn more about this strategy. As soon as Lazda appeared though, Ornifex instantly destroyed him with a needle dart spell. Despite her peppering him with sharp bladed feathers, I described his body in a way that made sure they knew that that wasn't the cause of death. I described him as being thin, gaunt, and shriveled and soulless. They searched the thieves, got the loot, and identified it. The bracelet of dashing went to May, the jolt coil went to Gorgon, and they stashed the viper arrow since none of them use bows. And then they checked out the other rooms. When they were in the kitchen, they did find the secret door, but they decided to leave it for now because they wanted to search all of these other rooms. Finally, they did address the Lazda situation.
Has anyone noticed that this guy, and I'm going to point to the guy I don't know the name of, that he looks different to the others, right? Like he's a different build. He doesn't look as old.
Yeah, he's from town.
From town?
Yeah.
Like recently?
Yeah.
What's his name?
That's Lazda. You know the woman that tried to kill me? That's her missing son.
Oh god. Really?
Yeah.
That's Lester?
Yeah, this is the guy that she was gonna get back, from the demons.
Oh,
Which is
man.
obviously a lie since he's dead right here.
Can I have a look at the body to see, for approximately how long he must have been and what he died of?
He had been missing for a year, but he had been dead for a month, and the cause of death was a mixture of starvation and the fact that his soul seems to have been destroyed.
So he must have been dead for about a month now. For how
About a
long was he-
month.
For how long was he missing again?
About a year.
He was in here for quite some while. Definitely malnourished.
Did he die here?
I assume
Can you tell
so.
that? Hmm. It's too bad that freaking Will-O-Wisp got into him. Because now we don't know what state he was in when he was dead. Like, how he died. Like, if he was thrown there. Because if he's been missing for almost a year. Or maybe a little bit more, I can't recall exactly. But missing for a year, died last month. Was there anything else?
Hard to describe since, dead people don't have a soul anymore. It returns, but he seems especially soulless. Can't really tell. Maybe his soul. His soul leaving his body might be the cause of his death, actually. It's really hard to tell.
Or maybe he was used as ammunition.
I do wonder if his body would still be in this fine of a condition then, though.
Well, if firing the gauntlet is mostly a spiritual ordeal, it might not have had a particularly great impact on his body. So he might have been hooked up to some device, and when the gauntlet was fired last month, that's when he died. Potentially.
I'm new to all of this. Is there any chance of rescuing a soul, or is it just gone?
That is the thing, we don't know anything about his soul in this case. If it has returned, then everything is fine. But if it was used as ammunition, I don't think it can return.
I
I was
mean,
afraid of that. I'm gonna pull out my notes because of this. Number 11, bring Lazda back if possible.
Yeah, I guess we have to.
But when Volok made the deal with his mum and he offered to bring her son back, I wonder if he has his soul in some regard. And that's what he meant. He would return his soul in some way.
So the theory for a second was that Corlock had Lazda's soul. This is not the case. Corlock is a lying and an evil devil. His promise to Brelda was to return her son. There was no promise that he would be living. His plan was to return Lazda as a zombie and essentially leads to the passing of Brelda as she is killed by her zombified son. Pretty dark, but that's the theme of the campaign.
No. It's a devil. I'm pretty sure he would have used some nasty tricks to just give the body back, but not really Lazda as a person.
Or something else inside the body. Something
Yeah.
worse.
Lazda's corpse with a corpse light inside of it would still be him, right?
Yeah,
Still
here he
body
is.
returned.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust the devils here. I don't think they have any means of changing this.
Gorgon has a list of shame, a list of things he's done wrong in his past that he wants to be redeemed for. It's his entire backstory. In a previous session, he added to that list that he wanted to return Lazda to Brelda. Since his living body could not be returned, Gorgon was damn sure going to retrieve the body. So they wrapped it in linen and stored it in one of the bathtubs. Then they looked at the rest of the rooms, but there isn't anything really of value aside from a few trinkets and money. When they got to the disposal room, I bided my time with the poltergeist. There is supposed to be a poltergeist in this room that shoves one of the party into the chute if they get too close. However, that probably would have derailed us for multiple sessions, and I wanted them to get to Voluk. This was very difficult, though, as Milo shoved his entire head in at some point, leaving himself very exposed. It was definitely something to come back to, though.
Yeah, we shouldn't go down there without a rope.
I have a rope. I mean, you seem really sold on this.
Well, I mean, it's so weird, right? A banquet hall, and then some excavated tunnel. I mean, it could be a trash chute.
Yeah, that was what I was about to say. Doesn't it make sense to have the trash chute here?
Yeah, I mean, it does.
I mean, we've got other options, other places to go before we literally go headfirst down a possible rubbish dump.
To be fair, this entire place is kind of rubbish, but yeah, you're right.
At long last, they gathered at the door to the lounge, which is where Volluk was waiting for them. The walls of this large chamber are hung with grisly paintings depicting various spectral beings cavorting among ruined neighborhoods, overgrown swamps, and foggy graveyards. 3 large overstuffed chairs pair with small end tables, upon which sit empty wine glasses. To the south stands a cluttered writing desk with its own chair, while a large iron tub to the west is visible between standing screens depicting shadowy marshes. Volok has tremor sense. He knew what was happening in the other room. He didn't particularly care, but he was waiting for them and not particularly surprised that they had shown up.
Your theatrics on the above floors have been entertaining, but it's time for you to return home. You feign glory and heroism by killing pests and false devotees. But if you go any further, you will be directly hindering my work and the work of the great Belcora. And we will no longer be able to ignore your incursions. I will fire the tower again. Do not make me choose your loved ones as the target.
Alright. Could you just give us 2 seconds? Closing door. Guys, what do we do?
Obviously, we kill him.
Okay, we're certain on that.
I mean, he just admitted that he fired the Gorna in the first place, which means he's actively killed somebody to do that.
Alright,
Yeah.
I just want to be certain.
This is like one of the bad guys. I mean, this is probably whatever his name is.
Gorgon turns back around, opens the door. We have come to banish you.
He spins his chair around to face you and pulls himself to his feet, which is a horrible writhing motion where he doesn't really have to put any weight onto his knees or anything. His body just slides up in this wobbling form of worms.
Since you refuse my warnings and insist upon death, I will give it to you.
He glances across the group. Again, no eyes. You just see his face kind of pan the area. And he nods slowly.
I will kill the boy, and you will take his body away in a wave of tears and blood, never to return here.
Roll initiative. As the first big bad of the campaign, the one that closes out the first book, I wanted him to be very intimidating and very knowledgeable. He was fully aware of the party as they've been traversing the other floors, but he described them as killing pests and false devotees. When you think about the adventure as a whole, those first 3 floors do not contain anyone who is directly related to Belcora or Volluk. There's a lot of people who worship her or worship what she was doing, but there's nobody who directly serves her anymore. It made sense to me that Volluk and Belcora would consider those first 3 floors as just abandoned and full of pests. A major theme I wanted with Volluk is that he was very low effort when dealing with our party. The reason I chose Milo is because the group is very protective of him. Volluk was trying to be his equivalent of reasonable. He doesn't actually care about our heroes because so far they've done nothing to actually bother him or hinder him. So he just wanted to leave them with a message that would say go away and don't bother trying again. And on my end as the GM, I was just very curious as to how they would behave, knowing that one of them specifically was going to be targeted. So, combat began. This went truly very badly. More than a lot of fights, you need to know a lot about Volluk to succeed. And because of that, Volluk entirely overwhelmed them. He opened with a worm's repast on Milo. He critically failed and was instantly brought to dying. So the party responded by going into panic mode, as they would. May dragged Milo away from the door, and then they started healing him, and Gorgon closed the door again. By the end of this round, he did end up back near full health, which is great, but he was still being eaten from the inside out by worms, so persistent damage. The party seemed very nervous to approach. They attacked at range, then, once the door was closed, they were expecting Volluk to rush out to fight them, but Volluk just didn't care about them. And why would he? With fast healing 7, he prefers a drawn-out fight. Everything they were doing was just getting healed away while they were wondering why he wasn't coming to get them. May did finally use her new spell from the backstory though, Shielded Arm, which I gave her as a focus spell. With the door closed and nobody wanting to go through first, a full round went by back to Gorgon who had closed it, and he ended up being the one to open it and rush in. To show how little he feared our heroes, by the time they had opened the door again, Volok had turned back to his desk and was reading. Throughout the fight, he boredly mocked our heroes, calling them insignificant and amateur. They very quickly discovered Volok's resistance to physical damage. So as our heroes all rushed in, between his high AC, his resistances, his fast healing, they couldn't really do anything to him. Their assault was entirely ineffective against him. Each round, they essentially achieved nothing, as he would heal up all the damage they could do to him. And Volok's spells were very effective on our party. He paralyzed Tiny and then hit him with a crit, which meant Sesto was taking persistent damage. He cast Worm's Repast multiple times, and that devastated their party's health. Eventually, Volok just grew bored of the group's attack. May had an idea, and she pulled out the locket that showed how he used to look. Volok has a mechanic where if he sees this locket, he has to make a saving throw, and if he fails, he becomes slowed as he's racked by regret and frustration. Volok did pass his save, but I had him become enraged. So far, he had been very nonchalant about the fight, half committed, but now he focused in on May and demanded that she give him the locket. They thought it's because he wanted the locket, he just wanted to destroy it. As he turned his malice towards May, she fled the room and called for a retreat, but the other heroes didn't agree. Ornifex began to cast the 3-action, 2-turn Inner Radiance spell. So as she spent the entire turn charging up, Tiny was still paralyzed, taking 2d8 plus 8 persistent damage. So Sesto was forced to de-summon him in order to save himself. Summoners are really weird. Milo finally succeeded in exploit vulnerability and learned that he has weakness to splash damage, which confused them a little bit. And then Volok saw that Ornifex was charging this massive beam, and because he's a petty bastard, he stood inside of Gorgon's space, meaning Ornifex had to choose whether to blast them both or give up on the spell. Luckily, May rushed in, repositioned Gorgon, and then Ornifex could blast Volok with the powerful spell, which Volok did save, but he still took more than half damage, implying another weakness. This was due to a weakness to AoEs, but the party mistook it for a weakness to force damage, which will cause problems the next time they face it. This was the first time his health had been reduced low enough that he couldn't heal it back in just one turn of fast healing, but he was nowhere near dead. Seeing this was demoralizing enough to our players that they fled. Volok was still focused on May, and as she ran, he cast Mind Reading. She failed, and he saw her thoughts, and because of that, in a desperate attempt to get May to stay so he could kill her, he made a threat.
You can leave now, but I'll be taking Rin for the next battery.
Oh.
But our party did flee back to the surface. They made their way all the way back to Atari. Volok is a really hard fight because you need to prep for it. The usual methods of overcoming a strong opponent, such as grappling, prone, demoralizing, don't work on him. You beat him with items and spells that trigger his weaknesses. That's essentially the only way. There's no way to deactivate his fast healing, so you need to know that you're going to fight him before you fight him. This makes for a very difficult first major boss for our players. As they arrived back in Atari, I kind of cinematicked them. I had them return to Rin and explain what had happened. And then I had Rin sit them down and explain that this can't keep going on. These guys need to train, they need to prepare themselves for what they're going to face. And with that, I enabled the free archetype optional rule. And then I gave them a list of thematic and, more importantly, effective free archetype choices. I ended the session here, and I sent my players away to think about which free archetype they wanted to choose, and next session I can reveal what they chose to you. Using free archetype to encourage thematic characters is another thing I've done a video on, which you can also find on the channel. Next time they face him, I think they can kill Volluk. They know his weaknesses now, they know his strengths, they know what to avoid. He really is a challenge of knowledge, and they have that knowledge now. Especially with the free archetypes, they're going to go in there a lot better prepared to face this specific enemy. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed our hero's first of probably many attempts at Volluk. Hopefully next time they come out on top. If you liked the video, then, like, subscribe, comment. It is really the best way to support the channel. And you can find my usual links in the description for Blue Sky, Discord, whatever. That's it for today. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.